Thanks, Tom. Good tunes, but you know.
Can you hear me, Dennis?
I can now, yeah. Yeah, when you got
Sorry,
on, I could hear the music.
Yeah, actually, I'm at Busch Gardens today with my family, so I'm gonna go on mute, and the music's kind of loud here in the background.
Yeah, well, you can also catch it later on video. You know, no problem.
Yeah, well, everybody's waiting in line right now on a ride I'm not going to go on, so I've got a little bit of time. I appreciate it, though.
Okay.
Hey, Dennis, Tom.
Hey, is this Andy? Who is this? Who's Andrew? Hello? Hey, Danielle, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Is that Andy Kurtz on there? No? Okay. Somebody named Andy just logged on. We'll see what happens. Hey, Zach, how are you?
Hey, Dennis, how you doing?
I'm okay. How you doing?
Doing well. Almost back to my house. I'm on my phone now, but get to pull out the laptop here in a little bit.
Oh, okay. I'm coming
Yeah.
to Asheville this weekend, so I might stop by your store if I get a chance.
Are you serious? It'd be great to see you in person. Heck,
Yeah, are you working there Saturday?
I will be in and out, but especially
Okay.
if you're around, just, give me a line and I'll definitely make sure to be there. My wife she's always there.
Okay. Okay. We're visiting my wife's brother who's not doing well health-wise. So I
Oh
don't
no.
really know what our schedule's gonna be, but we shall see.
Yeah. Well, sorry it's under those circumstances, but look forward to it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, Zach,
Yeah,
I was gonna stop by this weekend and see you while I was up there. My schedule got changed and I didn't get through Asheville until Sunday. So I hate I missed you.
Well, yeah, we're God, Friday was our busiest Friday we've ever had, and it was a pretty solid weekend for us.
Good for
And
you.
it's April, yeah. I
Now,
think it's gonna be nutty.
what sells more, the gelato or the chocolate?
So it depends, seasonally. The summertime we sell a lot more. It can be up, 35-40% of our sales. But for instance, this time of year, it's definitely more chocolates. And for us, those big days, they usually happen when we sell more chocolate just because our average sale price is up. Whereas the gelato, is pretty inexpensive per serving.
I see. Cool.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the video of yesterday's that I've missed on marketplaces. Pretty excited about looking at that one.
Yeah, it was fun. We actually ran across a new one I had never heard of before. Ginny suggested one that was really cool, and we learned a lot, I think, and talked about Amazon and Walmart and several wholesale ones. Fair, for example, you might be familiar with, and so it was cool.
Nice.
All right. So now I've got an Andrew on here. Is that Andy Kurtz by any chance?
No, sorry, Dennis. That's Ron Elkins. I think my son has just hijacked my login at some point, and I need to switch out.
No problem. I just wanted to be sure because I've got my eyes open for our guest speaker, so that's cool.
Who is the guest speaker?
Andy Kurtz, who's coming right now, CEO of Buttermilk Creative.
Okay.
Uh-oh, call SBCA on Jenny. Hi, Andy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
We're gonna wait for one of our participants to finish beating their dog, and then we can get started. Is the dog still alive? You're muted, thank goodness. Jenny, thank you. Okay, so, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Andy, we'll have folks coming in. We got kind of a late arriving crowd. So everybody, this is my friend Andy Kurtz, who's the CEO of Buttermilk Creative. And as far as I'm concerned, he's the world's leading expert on CPG packaging and design. Just did a lot of work with him in the past, and really pleased. And we actually worked on a project for one of the teams in this class last semester, Acculink, which we've talked about with the packaging and stuff. Andy's helped them on design and stuff like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Andy, and I got to make him guest host. So hold on one second. I'll do that. I keep forgetting that I have to do that. Okay, and hopefully that succeeded. So, so anyway, everybody, here is my friend Andy Kurtz, CEO of Buttermilk Creative.
All right. Thank you, Dennis, so much for the rousing introduction. And it's nice to be here and see everybody. And, you know, I have enjoyed, like Dennis said, working with him over the years and hearing about all the stuff that he's into. And so I'm happy to help him and chat with you all today about what we do at Buttermilk Creative. So to just sort of give a quick background, I worked at the Fresh Market headquartered here in Greensboro for about 7 years. And during that time, I headed up their in-house marketing and design group. And what we did there was design just about everything that goes into the store. So if you've been in the Fresh Market, you'd see brochures and catalogs and point of purchase materials, signage, all that kind of stuff. But I also did all their private brand packaging design. And the Fresh Market was neat because it wasn't like other grocery stores' private brand programs. Each product had a different look and feel. And so when we would, the things that would, where we would draw inspiration for the design would be from the particular buyer who represented the product, the maker who made the product, and then some of the product background. So like if it was super duper authentic bronze cut pasta from Italy, that the family had been doing it for centuries, then that would be something that we would work into the packaging design. So it was really fun because it wasn't like, if you think about Whole Foods or Harris Teeter or any of these other large grocery stores, they have the logo and then they have some kind of product image and then they have the product name and then that's it. Doesn't matter if it's super duper fancy olive oil or popcorn, microwave popcorn. And so through that time, I really that was the part of my job that I really loved, was designing packaging. And it was also fun. I got insight into what buyers look for on when companies send in products to be considered to go on the shelf. So was in a lot of samplings and cuttings and category reviews where there would be just a bunch of gelatos and they would be sampling them, and some of the gelatos would be the best gelato you've ever tasted, and it would like knock the buyer's socks off who had been tasting gelato for years and years, but it didn't have like compliant packaging, didn't have a UPC, didn't have nutrition facts panel, so they couldn't take it. And it wasn't enough to go back to the maker and say, we love your product, but you don't have a compliant package. They would tell them that, but they would say, you're welcome to make compliant packaging, and then we'll reconsider you next year for the next category review. And so again, they weren't going to sit there and coach them on how to get on the shelf at the Fresh Market. That was it. And so I tried to take some of those learnings, and then also some of the things that when brands would send in product to the buyer, if it was a particular category review, they would just have all the samples all around them, in the mailroom, around their desk, and they would have all the line sheets, which are the sheets that sort of give the rundown of the product and the MSRP and the all the technical information that the buyer needs. And then some of the companies would send like very nice brochures that were like a different size, printed on nice stock. And then others would just print off an Excel spreadsheet. And you can guess which brands would rise to the top. It wasn't the ones that were printing off on Excel, printing off their Excel spreadsheets. It was the ones that really stood out from the crowd, because you could tell if they're going to spend that much time and energy on a piece of marketing material, how much have they spent on their product? And so it was just all these little things that, whether it was subconscious or conscious, I could see made an impact on these buyers. So we've brought a lot of those learnings into Buttermilk, which I started about 6 years ago, with the focus of designing packaging for specialty food and beverage brands. And that just is because that was our background, and that's what we've always done, and our network is built around that. And we feel like we have a good focus and specialty in that industry. So it's since sort of grown out of that. So instead of just focusing on packaging, we also do websites and branding and identity and all that kind of stuff to support what brands need to either launch, relaunch, refresh. We work with startup brands, but then we also work with more established, heritage brands, or whatever you want to call them, big, small, all over the place. So I'm going to sort of pause there and see if anybody has any questions, or I'm happy to scroll through some of our work. If, I didn't really prepare like a specific like dog and pony show, but it would be fun to just sort of have a conversation and sort of talk and see if anybody has any questions or.
Sure. One thing, Andy, that
Yeah.
might be interesting. We have one of our companies, Chris, has a produce store in downtown Goldsboro. I think it's called Downtown Produce Market. And so he deals with a lot of stuff that you're talking about. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that. I know your wife has a background in retail store design and all that kind of stuff. So that might be helpful for Chris to hear some of that.
Yeah. So yeah, my wife, who also works at Buttermilk Creative, she was also at the Fresh Market, and she headed up the store design group. So any kind of new stores that were opened in the 9 years that she was there, or remodels or store refreshes, she was part of and designed basically the fixture plan, the floor plan. So she had a ton of insight into, it was a collaborative effort from the CEO all the way down to the buyers on what the floor plan was going to look like. And each department sort of controlled, obviously, their department, their area, their aisle, if you will. And so she had to, really take a lot of different opinions and personalities and fit it all into the box. And so, but, and then on top of that, ADA compliance, making sure like she didn't plan where the electrical would go. That was an engineer that did that, but she would still have to factor that into where she would place fixtures. And then also just, you layered customer flow and sort of the natural flow of the store and how you sort of wanted that to happen. All of that is sort of, all those sort of things that were requested, all had to be sort of viewed through that lens as well. Yeah, I don't know if that necessarily helps or.
No, it's good.
Yeah. And, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like, what I was always amazed by was all the different types and styles of fixtures and shelving units, and just all the different finishes that are involved and all, and then all the different coolers and all that kind of stuff. All all the things that go into the grocery store that you never think about because you're usually in and out, especially nowadays. We don't really spend a bunch of time in grocery stores, if any time at all. But yeah.
And you want any comments about packaging in the peanut business? We've got some peanut people here and pecans and stuff like that. Any thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah, here, okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just got a quick question. We are in the process of redesigning some packaging. Is that something that you all could help? I want to make sure that as we're doing a redesign, that we're fixing it so that it could go in a lot of different areas, a lot of different categories, so that we don't have so many different kinds of packaging. Is that something that you could help with?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And actually
Best in the country. Best in the country. I'm not kidding.
I spoke to, I need to send him my notes, but Wayne and I talked the other week where he sent me some of his designs that he's sort of working with right now. And I gave him just a quick overview, and we spent about 30 minutes on the phone just sort of talking about that. And, just giving him some pointers and best practices on what he could work on with his new design. So yeah, we could definitely look at that. I can pull up my screen real quick, and we can look at sort of a bit of a case study of some work that we did for Whitley's Peanuts up in Virginia. And this launched about, I guess, it was over last year is when they really rolled out all this, all the rebrand. But let me pull this up real quick.
Yeah, I will say that Andy was super helpful, and we're using all that information and working on repackaging or redesigning or whatnot. And so hopefully we'll have something the next month or so.
Oh, good. I'm glad you found it helpful, Wayne. I still do need to. It's on my list to send you those notes.
No problem.
Here we go. Okay, let me pull this up real quick. Sure.
Andy,
Sure.
while you're pulling that up, did you say you do you can take let's say a new company and help them start out with the web design and the logo and all that dance that goes with it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can help in all stages. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Dennis, a friend of mine wants to take Dennis's class, but she's really needs someone like yourself she's like me. You need somebody to zip line you through
Oh,
the
please
whole
don't say
formation.
that. Someone like you, God help us.
That's ugly, but so true. But so true. But she will need that kind of help. So anyway.
For sure.
Oh, that looks nice.
Absolutely. So this is the work we did for Whitley's Peanuts, and this is a slightly older. This was before they actually had photography of all their new stuff. So I have these mock-ups. But so if you went to their website, Whitley's Peanut, I think it's whitleyspeanuts.com. But if you just Google Whitley's Peanuts, you'll see all their new packaging all over their site. So you can see their old packaging was, first of all, I think it was last designed about 10 years ago, I think is what he said. And it's a I guess it's not third generation. So his Todd Smith, who's the current owner, his dad started the company, and then Todd's brother ran it for a little while, and now Todd runs it. And so this particular design that you see, the before, was done during his brother's tenure. And so in addition to just the normal anxieties of a redesign, he sort of had that layered on top of it, which was, just family stuff, and like really putting it on the line to really invest a good chunk of capital into redesigning everything, and he just wanted to make sure it was going to be the right way and it was going to be effective and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, so again, in addition to it just being time to redesign, a normal company looks at redesigning their packaging if they're really on top of things, it's every 3 years. If they're sort of average, it's 5 years. But then most of them, I mean, I know I just said average, but really that should be like your target average. But most folks are on this sort of 10-year mark. But obviously you can tell, like, it looks like it's 10 years old. So, you know, you need to speed up that redesign schedule just to keep things fresh. But, you know, you could see that there was this sort of like dull gray background. This diamond that was in the logo didn't, so this was let me take a step back. This was a logo and a packaging redesign. And so, you know, this was a lot of issues with having this diamond behind the logo. You can't see it here, but they have multiple product lines. And what they were doing was, especially around their seasoned line, they would add a new color and a new like font for each flavor. So like the Chesapeake Bay flavor, you know, had a particular font style and a color. And then the Jalapeno Ranch had a new font and and it just became overwhelming to add new products every, you know, when they wanted to add a new season product, it was just this whole mountain that they had to climb up to launch that product. So, you know, it was partly just let's refresh their look, let's make them, you know, stand out on the shelf. Let's refine some things. Let's adjust some of the communication on the label, but then let's also make a system that's easy for them to plug into. And in the future, when they add more products, it's plug and play. You know, they might have to pick a new flavor color or something like that, but really everything else is set and ready to go. So some of the opportunities we saw were there was a good uniform way to communicate the product attributes that would resonate with their core customer. So you can see they have select super extra large under the logo. So it feels like that's maybe a tagline of the logo. It's very confusing. And then they have home cooked above Virginia peanuts. And then the particular type of product, salted, was very small, you know, below everything. And so what we looked at was reorganizing that a little bit. And so every product has 2 call outs and then this flavor badge down here. And so whether it's unsalted, salted, whatever, if it's jalapeno ranch, if it's, you know, honey, roasted, whatever it is, it goes down here so that the customer always knows that that's where they look. Because if you're, you know, wanting to buy salted peanuts and you buy unsalted or vice versa, you know, it's a problem. So we wanted to try to make that as clear as possible and as consistent as possible. In their logo, you can see that we lost the diamond behind there, and we explored like totally like blowing up the Whitley's logo. We looked at doing, you know, totally different font treatments, all that kind of stuff. And but we left the door open to just presenting an option that was fairly close to the older existing logo, but with some new refinements that made it feel more contemporary, but wasn't going to alienate their current customers. So you can see we kept some of the attributes of the old logo. We kept these little, you know, little details below the W, but we sort of straightened them out a little bit. The H has this little swirl in it. We kept that in there, but we emphasized it because we thought that was pretty interesting. And you can see the S had that little swirl at the end of it, and we kept that as well. And then we also kept the colors consistent. So this is a Whitley's maroon red, which is what this diamond is, and all the red elements on here. So that was important to keep sort of that anchor element from the past, bring it into the future. And then you can see very faintly in the background of this color bar is this farm scene. So that was another thing that we look at in redesigns, especially with older companies. This is a 30-plus-year-old snack company. We didn't want to totally throw away the past, and so we looked for elements that we could bring into the future that customers would either consciously or subconsciously recognize as, it wouldn't be too jarring to see the redesign. And so, just really tried to clean it up. We also tried to, what you'll see, let's see, let me jump. Yep. What you'll see here is that in creating this bar, this band, it really creates this nice billboard of products and color. And so these are just samplings of, the different products that they have. So these are all the categories, but within, this season category, this wasabi ginger, they have, I think, 7 or 8 different flavors right now. This jumbo cashews, that's what we call the other nuts category. They have cashews, almonds, walnuts in that. The deluxe nut mix, that's the mixes category, that's the green. And then this candied peanuts, that's the candied category. And then we have a confection category, which is this brown. And so these are, and then we obviously have their flagship Virginia peanut category, which is Whitley's red. And so what you have here is a nice system that everything fits in. So if you think about it with the, so you can sort of see with these bags, this is their flavored line. So you can see salt and vinegar, the color swaps out, but nothing else changes. So that sort of helps simplify their system as they develop new products. I just have to pick out a new color for that flavor badge. And then obviously everything else, whether it's the other nuts, the nut mix, the candied peanuts, or the confections, they all have a Whitley's red badge that holds the different flavor. And then the redesign also helped them expand into these resealable pouches. And so, this was a format that they had not explored yet. They had only been in these tins. And so, this really has opened them up to a more convenient format that, busy moms on the go can put a bag in their car and snack on them, give it to the kids to snack on. And they have this large bag, which is 16 ounce, and then they have a smaller 3 ounce size as well. So we had to think about, okay, we're going to design something that fits on a tin like this, carry it over into a vertical bag, a vertical layout bag, and then scale that bag down to a 3 ounce size as well. So it needed to also be flexible. So you can see this layout that works on a tin and a label that's long and wide. It also works on on this vertical format.
It looks great.
Thank you.
I mean, it really sharp.
Best in the country.
Well.
And we also helped them on and I don't have a picture of it here, but I can describe it to you. So we worked on also all their, because they do a ton of they do some wholesale retail, but they do a ton of mail order. So they needed new gift boxes and shippers and things like that. And that's sort of the not very attractive part of packaging design that we try to make attractive. So in their case, they had white corrugate box. And so in their old design, they had white corrugate boxes that had 2-color printing. Now, when these white boxes would go across the country, they would get all scuffed up, get all dirty. They looked terrible. So in the redesign, we recommended they go with because the redesign was all about sort of simplifying and trying to refine and clean up, we recommended they go with just just embrace sort of the utilitarian nature of their shippers and just go with a craft box and then do white printing on the outside. And so what they have is just a brown craft box, and it has their Whitley's logo in white, which looks nice. That's sort of an unexpected. You're used to seeing black printed on corrugate, the brown corrugate. But with white, it sort of makes it feel a little bit more upscale and hides a lot of that dirt that accumulates on shippers. So it's been fun to sort of take this idea and this design that works on their packaging formats, and then think about how it applies to their gift boxes and their shippers and all that kind of stuff. And we just wrapped up doing their business cards and letterhead and that kind of stuff.
Do you do the printing as well, or do you you just do the design and send it off to a printer?
Yeah, because so many, and we can recommend printers based on sort of what you need. But so many of our clients already have those relationships, and in their case, 30 years old, they've invested in all types of machinery and lines, their production lines. So really, we just look to them on telling us like what formats, what label size, the bag sizes, all that kind of stuff. But we can definitely help. If you haven't established all that stuff yet, we can help sort of give some recommendations or make some referrals and things like that.
Hey, Andy.
Yeah.
Do you have any feel for the outcome from this company's perspective? What were the benefits they saw from this effort?
For sure. Yeah. So they have noticed, especially in this format. So it's partially because of the new format offering that the adoption of these bags. I don't know the actual number, but their customers have fully embraced this new format, and they love it. They love they get a lot of feedback on the colors and how, it really stands out to people. They got a lot of comments over Christmas, because that's really their Q4 business. And so really this past Christmas was when a lot of their customers were seeing the redesign for the first time. And they got a lot of feedback on just how it was, how bright it was and nice it was. It's a lot of anecdotal stuff, but we're really trying to set them up to go into stores and just compete with the other nut companies that are out there, snack companies that are out there. And you can imagine how, if they went to a grocery buyer with this old design, sort of what the feedback might be versus this sitting on a grocery shelf.
That's really good looking.
Thank you.
Yeah, I assisted Andy on this project. I'm just kidding.
But this
on the old project.
Yeah, that was me in the old one. Yeah, exactly.
but in this project, even before we started working on the design, we also worked with them on really nailing down their mission and values and positioning, and then uncovering the personas that they're like current customer who we needed to speak to, but then also their aspirational customer. Their current customer definitely skews older and is more of a catalog shopper, mail order shopper. And what they wanted to do was, obviously, we can't alienate those folks, but they also wanted to speak to a younger demographic, maybe millennials or folks like that. And so we really, it's a tricky balance between the two. I definitely presented some more radical things that got nixed because they were just going to be too much for their current customers.
Really fantastic.
I have a question about strategy.
Yeah.
So I have a product. It's kind of it's not really a durable good, but it's a sanitary toilet plunger. And so could you talk a little bit about strategy of taking that to retail establishments? So like, let's say like a Lowe's versus a Bed Bath & Beyond, the packaging that those stores might want to be totally different. And so your point earlier about the quality of the packaging, the presentation, and the marketing material, how on point does that have to be relative to sort of what their value proposition is versus sort of the quality of the material, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
Or are they willing to come back and say, yeah, this looks like a quality product, but we need to massage some of the verbiage and things like that? How do these companies respond to that?
Yeah. So I think the first thing would be, again, understanding have a good understanding of who your target customer is, because I don't know if that, they might be shopping at both Bed Bath & Beyond and Lowe's, but in my mind, if I think about sort of the stereotypical customer that you associate with both of those stores, they're not the same person. And so if you're trying to reach both of those customers, let's say, and I'm just going to go ahead and stereotype, the Lowe's customer is male, and the Bed Bath & Beyond customer is female. Now, the messaging and the packaging and everything is going to have to be different for both of those, and then also I could see a more industrial, utilitarian look for Lowe's, and then something that's a little bit more high end for Bed Bath & Beyond, so like you can see how this could sort of snowball if you don't define it early, and just go after who it is you want to talk to.
Sure.
Because it drives all that. It drives,
right.
Even drives, where are you going to communicate? Are you going to be on Facebook? Are you going to be on Instagram? Or, all that kind of stuff. What kind of keywords and things like that you're going to use. But so that's first. So let's say you're like, okay, we're going to go after our Lowe's shopper. I think it just depends on the buyer, and how I guess busy they are. If you have something that's professional and okay, so I've heard two things. So one is, if you're just going in there out of the blue and your packaging isn't up to snuff, then the likelihood of them, working with you is low, to get you up to speed. If it's not like 100% perfect, or there's a little bit, you go to Lowe's, there's not everything there is, just 100% perfect. But if it's pretty good, then I'm sure they would, and it's a great product, then I'm sure they would take you on. Now, the other strategy is to try and build a relationship with someone there so that when you start designing that packaging, that you can bring them along the journey and sort of just not like design this packaging for me, but say, we're working on this, we're always trying to improve our messaging and our communication, and would love you to take a look at this. And a lot of I've heard that from a lot of like food brands who, launched with a certain packaging design, and then within, a year or two, do a redesign. And because they already have their product in a store and have that relationship with that broker or the buyers, they'll bring them along on the process of redesign to get their insight. Now they're not in those initial brainstorm meetings. They usually show them the designs maybe 60, 75% done. But that's sort of nice because then you have, the buyer feels like they've been part of the process. And then you get that great insight. And hopefully when you do start shipping that new design, the adoption is better rather than just like one day, there's all this new product on the shelf and they don't know what happened. But yeah, to your point around, I would just definitely define who you're talking to and then, just really look at the messaging and things like that. And then as far as, I don't know how far along you are with the structure of, how the plunger is gonna be. I was actually trying to wrap my head around how, one would go about packaging that. Is it a tag? Is it a little like box on the bottom that the plunger sat in? I don't know. But yeah, and the more, and I would also say in your case, the more innovative the indifferent that structure is, even if it doesn't, that would give you even better positioning with the buyer. You might have sort of like not perfect messaging on it, but if it's just a cool structure that really stops them in their tracks versus just plunger with a little tag at the top or whatever. I hope that sort of helps.
Yeah, that does. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else have any questions or?
All right. I guess you answered all the questions, Andy. What can I say?
I'm happy to share any more projects. I tend to ramble, so I don't want to.
Do you have anything like hot dogs or hamburgers or grass-fed beef or anything along those lines?
I don't.
Let's see. We kind of covered nuts. How about cheese straws?
Andy, what he's getting at is that you need to round out your portfolio. So.
I know, I do. Well, so here, let's see. I'm sort of looking through.
We got some farms too, some agritourism, some.
Oh, you know what? I do have some cheese straws.
Oh, awesome.
We did. We worked
Put on your helmet, Jenny.
Huh?
We worked on.
He's got to look at mine. I'm gonna have him look at mine.
Yeah.
So it's actually another. Let me share real quick. It was another redesign for Southern Season.
Oh yeah.
So this was their old one, and then that's their new one. Before and after, and so what we still tried to try to stick with what their customers were used to looking for, which was red and yellow. But we just tried to modernize it because they were going in this new. Well, no, they were always in these like sort of tent carton things. But then they, instead of doing the circle tin, they went in this metal sleeve or metal, the silver tin with the sleeve. So how we translated that design into that.
Yeah.
And I think we did some grits for them as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you look at my packaging.
Sure.
You know, just
Jenny has a
If you-
cheese straw company. She's been in business for 20 years, even though she's only 29.
and
Um,
he's sweet.
Yeah, but
It's a miracle.
they're really good. They look like little cheese biscuits to me, although I'm a
Oh,
northerner,
yeah.
so what do I know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Andy?
Yes.
I had a question for you. So you
Yes, sir.
spoke to Tom about his plunger related to strategy on Lowe's versus Bed Bath and Beyond or different channels, what have you. What about packaging strategy related to e-com versus grocery? Do you see where there would be a material difference, or for the sake of cost when it comes to, well, not just cost, but the legalities of all the disclosures with food, where you're trying to have common labels on a production line, where you're not trying to produce a certain batch for e-com sales versus grocery? Do you see that it's okay to keep the packaging consistent because of that production component? Or do you feel like it's worthwhile to have almost two different inventories, to push one through e-com and the other through brick and mortar?
I would definitely, because, well, I don't. So, with the pandemic and everything, every brand has tried to really lean into e-commerce and D2C and all that. And I think some of the newer ones maybe feel like, and focus less on retail and getting on shelf. And some of the newer ones, the newer brands, I think feel like that's maybe their silver bullet, that's how they're going to scale and grow, is only through D2C. And they see that as an easy path because you set up your website or your Shopify website, or even an Amazon store, and you hit publish, and then the orders are just going to start rolling in, and the only way to do that is to really invest, almost 50% of your revenue in ads, Facebook ads and digital advertising, because that's the only way to make a big splash and get in front of people and, separate yourself from all the different millions of brands out there. So it's still the best strategy is to eventually get on the shelf somewhere and be distributed, because then, people are seeing you. The amount of traffic and eyeballs that people see are way greater than going the digital route. That doesn't mean that you don't also have your e-commerce option. 100%. As soon as people buy it from Whole Foods or from wherever, and they have that option to visit your website and purchase you and they're a return customer, then that's awesome. That's fine. But it's getting those first customers, that acquisition is what's difficult going the solo D2C route. So that's all to say that I would design your packaging like it's going to go on the retail shelf. Even if it's not, even if that's not necessarily in your strategy, your business plan right now, you don't have any connections or anything like that with retailers, I would still design it with that in mind, because that's eventually where you're going to need to go to really gain, to be able to scale. And then also that's really if you're looking at, getting investors and things like that, that's really what they're going to look at is, well, what are the retail sales like? And that's really still a big proving ground for brands. Anybody can create a website and sell things online, but it takes a certain brand to make that jump onto the shelf. And then just for simplicity's sake, and just storing the your inventory of packaging, you'll want to just stick with one format as well. But yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, maybe you have more leniency selling D2C with a packaged product. I don't really know what because we've been so from working at Fresh Market to working by ourselves, we're so conditioned to follow the FDA guidelines on packaging that I don't even know what. So even if a product is going, even if we're working with a brand that's D2C, we still follow those guidelines. The only difference is, for instance, we're working on a company that's going to be launching 6 types of powdered supplements, and he's just doing D2C. He's just doing subscription model, so he doesn't have a UPC, and he doesn't have, and he's not. Oh no, he is including nutrition facts. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only thing that he's missing is a UPC. Everything else looks just like it would go on a shelf.
Yeah, you're right. The only restrictions you're required to are at the production level to meet their requirements, and then Amazon's probably the most similar to a brick and mortar when it comes to their standards. Otherwise, it's sort of you don't need the UPC, you don't need a lot of other things. That's very helpful. I assume Dennis is going to send out your contact information for folks, because I think I would say that I would fit in that description you started out with D2C focus, and then going to make the transition into grocery, and certain conversations are being having right now to maybe do that sooner than I expected. But the packaging of my product, I don't think is ready for grocery, because when you go to grocery, you want to make that good first impression.
Oh yeah.
And you don't want that to be a reason for objection, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's really and by no means am I knocking an e-commerce D2C route starting off, but it definitely if you're
if your extra strategy is to be acquired, you need the grocery outlet, right?
Yeah.
You just can't, unless you're just going to be content perpetuating online for whatever that could return for, which could be nice returns, don't get me wrong. But if you're ever going to become more than just a micro brand, and you're going to get to more of that regional, national level, you got to have a grocery presence, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and because it's just so expensive online, especially through Amazon. I mean, just to show up, in search results can be a very very expensive. Like I am on similar to Dennis's program. There's a program down in Austin called SKU, SKU, and it's an accelerator. And they have they're in the track 9 right now. We're about halfway through track 9, and I'm on a team, and it's actually a company based in Charlotte called Macro Snacks. And we were just reviewing some, like I'm in the design and branding portion of his team, but when we're on team calls, obviously there's business guys, there's marketing people there's strategy people on his team. And so they, every week we go over sort of like what are some of the just high level sort of business milestones and things like that, or just that take a temperature. And I think there was something like he maybe was targeting to spend maybe 50% of his revenue on the or on his current trajectory. That's what he was going to be spending on his digital advertising. And that brought up another one of the mentors said that he was on the board of another brand that's spending 90%. Basically, none of it's sustainable. The average is around 12 to 15%. And so, but that's for like a brand that's really established and
Maintaining presence versus trying to cut through the noise.
yeah. And so, it's fine if like that's like your like 6-month plan is to dump that money into getting noticed, but you can't keep going on that track. And it's not a guarantee that you do 50% or 90% for 6 months, and then you can just coast on that, whatever, 12 to 15%.
Yeah.
Because you can spend all that money and just never get that traction. So,
Do you enjoy bourbon?
Yes.
So therefore, do you
Oh,
work
I set him up with that, Andy. I told him,
No, I cheated. I went to your website while
Yeah.
you were talking, and I saw your bio, and I saw you drank bourbon. So what you're saying is that you'll redesign labels for bourbon infused meat.
that's what he sells, Andy. That's Joe's product, bourbon and liquor infused meat.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, that's interesting.
Booze Dogs, boozedogs.com.
Booze Dogs. Oh man, that's really cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's awesome.
No, but thanks for the advice on that. That was good.
Yeah, you bet. Now you're in a whole nother producing meat we've done some animal product. Like we just wrapped up a duck fat sleeve, and then we're doing some dips, refrigerated dips that have meat in them, and the FDA requirements for those are above and beyond what just sort of like a standard food or beverage product is. Like, there's the plant, there's like a plant seal that has to go on there that's specific to each plant, or whatever plant is producing your product has a special number and a seal. And then it has to go through the FDA. So we wrapped up the design, and then we then had to send it to the FDA. We didn't send it. Our client sent it to the FDA, and they kicked it back. There was some wording on there that they didn't like all natural is always a really,
sure,
you don't ever want to put all natural on your packaging. So they nixed that. They nixed any mention of keto and paleo. They nixed those. So there was a lot of stuff that were totally out of our client's control that the FDA even went into their messaging. It wasn't even like, oh, this font size is too small, or you need to make this color, whatever. Like, they were getting into the nitty gritty of like how they phrase things and stuff like that. So, but I know meat products get scrutinized even more than just regular products.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
My wife and I run Asheville Chocolate up in Asheville.
Oh, nice.
And primarily we sell truffles online. And I'm having a hard time pinning down the actual packaging to send out things like turtles and barks, because we could really expand what we sell on the website. I just haven't found a way to get them in a decent package that looks good. And I didn't know if you had any tips you might be able to throw my way in terms of suppliers that have things like that packaging.
Yeah. So so our client, the Whitley's Peanuts, they ship their barks and their I can't remember I think they call them their peanut delights, but it's basically a turtle. It's a caramel, chocolate, and peanut. But they ship those in either, it's like in a tin, and then it has paper. They have like branded paper, in the tin, and then the turtles are just sort of placed in there. The bark is just sort of layered in there, and then obviously they seal the top. They also have, and I think they still line it with paper, but they have like an 8-ounce plastic tub.
Yeah.
And then do the same thing. You know, they just layer the stuff in there, so it's not, you know, shifting around. And they do a ton of mail order, so you know, they've thought about how, especially those like chunks of candy and chocolate shifts, and you know, so they pack it tightly enough that it doesn't, you know, break and look too messy when it gets to the customer. But you know, it's not, it fits within all their other packaging as well, because they have tins that they use for their peanuts and stuff like that. And then I don't know if this is a problem with you, but they have not figured out a way to ship their candies during the hot months. So they basically just around now, they will cut that off until about October. You just can't, you know, only in the winter time, like late fall till, you know, early spring, can you get there. And it's fine because they're such a Q4 heavy business that it really doesn't, no one's really ordering turtles and things like that in the middle of summer anyways. But that's another thing. If there's a company out there that could solve a way to keep candies cool, and I know there are, because there's some candy companies they have to ship year round. But I don't know if that's a problem for you too, but you know, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Which I'm sure you've experienced as you've shipped out stuff.
It is, you know, we found that we can do it. It's just, it's very hard to do and make any money while doing it.
It's
not lose your tail. It's very expensive, you know, speed or insulation or ice. And then you deal with weight and all of it.
And it's super wasteful too. You know, you have so much, if you have sort of a sustainability element to your company, and then you ship out, you know, like one chocolate bar in like a big U-line, you know, insulated box with the cool, you know, the everything, you know, just to sort of like, well, that sort of blew all that out. But yeah, that could be, you know, whatever, $17, $18, $20, just that box alone with the cooler.
It's pretty tough. So
yeah.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll go to their website and see if they'll still ship me something. That way I could dissect it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know they use for their cans, they use a independent can. I think if you just Google independent can, that would pop up. And then you know, for their plastic tubs, there's so many plastic tub companies out there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You bet.
All right, well, we're coming to the end. Are there any other quick questions before we let Andy go? And we'll have to invite him back another time, I have a feeling.
Yeah, you bet. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, you're great, Andy. Andy's the best. So the way you get in touch with him is www.bestcompanyintheworld.com. So I'll give you guys all his contact information in the Slack channel, so you'll be set. And you know, just realize Andy is a busy dude, so he'll get back to you, but he's a busy guy. And so I just let you know.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, I think many of us in this class would really benefit from your expertise and your designs. I think that you know, particularly this idea of bridging both e-commerce and the shelves, the grocery store shelves, is something that I think all of us here are gonna have to deal with that at some point.
Yeah.
And it's a logical path to follow. So thank you for your perspective and you know, and your experience in sharing it all with us.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me and all the great questions, and good luck to everybody. And yes, please reach out when Dennis sends out my contact info, and I'd love to chat.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks,
Hey, thanks, Zach.
Thanks so much.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same